Alright, this is ChatUTD. In a few minutes' time, I'm going to reply directly to some comments made to my post-match reaction against West Ham. The first seeds for me of making this channel more interactive. It's been a goal for a long time for me to get 50 subscribers. I met that landmark about 3 or 4 weeks ago. That means technically I can go live now, which will make the channel far more interactive. To do that, I need to verify the channel, which you would think is a straightforward process, and maybe to someone that's more tech savvy than me, it is a straightforward process. I'm not finding it straightforward, so I've been unable to do that. But that's where the channel's going, so that I can, moving forward, I find a way of letting the subscribers know when I'm going to go live, and maybe once or twice a week go live. Hopefully enough of the subscribers can watch it at that time. I'll always come to a video with an idea of what I'm going to talk about, but with live chat, it means I can respond directly to what people think and say, to questions, to requests for certain content ideas. The videos can just go off in different directions, and I think will make for hopefully even more interesting content than what's there at the moment, which is obviously me coming with my ideas. I also want to have other people on with me at different times, which I think again will be a signal of a massive evolution of the channel. So all that's exciting stuff that's to come in the future. As for right now, I haven't been able to verify my channel yet, so the best I can do in terms of interaction is when I see comments that I think are worthy of more than just a written reply, I can come and do a video on them. Because the comments are often, especially recently, really insightful and thought-provoking, and prompt, further discussion about things I'm interested in anyway, and hopefully the people that would watch would be interested in as well. So, language of football, in your comment the other night, Tuesday night, you said that in time we may well come back to look on this season as a missed opportunity, and you mentioned being in winning positions against Forest, Tottenham, West Ham at home, Bournemouth at home, Wolves at home, and I've mentioned those 5 games on here as well, and we didn't win any of those games. There's 10 points dropped there. You mentioned dropping points against Everton, losing against Everton at home, when for the pretty much entirety of the game they were down to 10 men. I was at that game. You mentioned dropping points to Leeds away, West Ham away, and although we were behind in both those games, these are teams that are fighting relegation, and we've dropped points against them, and as you say, that's 17 points if you count all that up. As you rightly mentioned, any team could look and say, well, we should have got this amount of points extra. Like you said, let's just be fair and roughly half it and say, okay, 9 of those points, 9 of those extra 17 points we could get, put us in a title race. I agree, it is a missed opportunity. You added that you think that maybe means we're not that far away because of those fine margins. We're not that far away, and with 3 or 4 players, maybe next season we could push on. This season for me is a season of suspended reality, because we're playing 1 game a week. You've said it, language of football. You said it as early as November, December sort of time. The reason you were optimistic about how high we could finish is that we're playing one game a week, and our competitors for the positions we're fighting for, they may well have a fixture pile up. Well, next year, if we're in Europe, which hopefully we will be, depending on how well we do in the different competitions, we're going to play between 10 and 25 extra games next season. That's a very different landscape to the one that we've got this season. It's not like for like. So I don't think you can just add 3 or 4 players to this squad and they'll be able to thrive with that workload, with that extra workload. Let's just say it was 20 extra games, that's half a Premier League season on top of what we've played this season. The squad with 3 or 4 added to it, and minus Casemiro, is not big or good enough to deal with that, in my opinion. So if anything, with those extra games to consider, I think we may well regress in the league position. I've said it. I think, particularly if we go into Europe, we probably need 9 players. But I think I landed on 8. We need 8 players. We're losing Casemiro, so I'd say we need 8 players in the summer to give us a squad with enough depth, and that not just that improves the quality of the team and the squad subsequently as well. You rightly said, we're not going to do that. There's no reference point to a big club doing that and doing it well. You're right. But that goes back to what I've said about January in the video I did expressing my disappointment at the lack of transfer activity in January. It's not just about this season. If we're on a relentless mission to get the 21st title, we've got to be strategic. And January needed to have been utilised, because there is a reference point to say that between January and the summer you could get 8 players, and I think that's what City did last year. You get 3 in January and 5 in the summer, you get 2 in January and 6 in the summer. I think City might have even done 4 and 4. There is a reference point to that. So knowing that it's a World Cup summer, knowing that we struggle to work on more than one deal at a time, would it not have been a good idea in the January transfer window to get, for example, 2 through the door? Strategically, get 2 through the door. Not just thinking about the here and now, but thinking about squad development for next season, given that there's a very, very high chance we're going to be in Europe. And by the end of January, I think you can see that that's a real chance. But their tagline, as I've said for me, is why go for exceptional when acceptable will do? Another issue, just while I'm on it, in terms of the squad, is that there's also players in that squad that if we're a ruthless club really hell-bent on winning titles, there's 3, 4, 5 players that you'd get rid of out of that team. I'm not going to do that, because, as I said, we need 8 on top of what we've got. The club has not got the people in positions to do that level of recruitment. So what will end up happening is, as in if you let go of players, you've got to replace them, even if it's just replace them as a number. The club will end up keeping players and saying, well, they're not that bad, they'll do. So that squad evolution that needs to happen, it's not just about players coming in, it's about letting players go. None of that really is possible within this structure. So, going back to the point of we're not that far away, if we were playing 1 game a season again next year, you could add 3 or 4 to it and we'd be all right. But as I say, there's between 10 and 25 extra games that we're going to be playing. Also worth considering, by the way, that you mentioned the opportunity to get 17 extra points or 9 extra points. The truth is, we didn't get those extra points, and there's a reason we didn't get those extra points. It's because we're not good enough. We didn't manage the games well enough. We didn't have a strong enough underbelly. We weren't conscientious enough not to switch off. The mentality, which you could say might grow and evolve over time, I understand that, but the mentality as of this season hasn't been good enough. And I always say, and I've not said it for a while on here actually, that to play for Man United you need ability, but you also need the psychological, physical, mental and emotional wherewithal to play for a club like United if you want to be right at the top. And individually and collectively, we've not got enough people who meet that criteria. If you've got the psychological, physical, emotional and mental wherewithal, they're your non-tangibles that mean on those 50-50 games where it's tight and it's the difference between getting an extra 2 points or not, you have enough about you to stay switched on, you have enough about you to be relentless, you have enough about you to be conscientious, you manage the game well enough, you have enough quality to do it. We haven't been able to do that. But when people said with Solskjaer, we finished a distant second, and people said, well, we finished second, so the next step is winning the league. It was never going to happen because we didn't have those qualities to be able to do that. We'd gone from 6th to a distant second in 2 or 3 seasons. You could say, well, that's 4 places. We're only going one more place, but that one more place from a distant second to first is a gargantuan step comparative to 6th to a distant second. That's where you find out the men from the boys. That's where you find out those little non-tangibles. Have you got them? Have you got the minerals? Have you got the balls to go and see it through? And I look around this team, and you can add 3 or 4 to it, and I don't think it's going to make a sufficient enough difference with all the extra games we're going to play. And I don't see a team that has those minerals to go and do what needs to be done, even in a relatively poor league where the top teams are not that good. So, as I say, I don't share that optimism regarding next season. And you mentioned, if we get players that steer clear of injury, it's a big if, isn't it? Your pool of players that you're choosing from to try and bring in that are going to be good enough to really increase the quality of the team. It's not going to be massive anyway, that pool of players. And then you put a criteria in, like as a player who never gets injured because we need them to play it every 3 days. I don't know. I think that's pretty tricky in a World Cup summer, and we're going into it without a manager. Another comment on Tuesday night was from Leon. And Leon, you said that Nicky Butt had said a few months ago we'd have probably lost that game under Amorim. I'm not sure it's an Amorim and a Carrick thing, and it's not actually. What it is more of is a this season versus last season thing. Because in fairness to Amorim, in games that we probably should have won, in fairness, but we were in front, but we actually ended up nearly losing against Forest, nearly losing against Tottenham. We got late goals in those games to come back, and I think what we said at the time was we'd have lost that game last season. Liverpool away, when they got the equaliser, you're thinking they've got the momentum now. We went up the other end of the pitch and got the winner. That was under Amorim. Leeds away, although it was obviously frustrating we didn't win, we went and got a point from a losing position. Bournemouth, although we should have won that game, were 3-2 up, and we came back and turned it around for 4-3, although they ended up getting a draw for 4-4. So I think there is evidence to say that earlier in the season we were showing a little bit more resilience and getting points from situations that last season we wouldn't have got those points from. I think what was different, there's a few differences. What was different the other night for me was that when West Ham scored, I thought there's no way back because of the way the game had gone to that point. And I was impressed with the way United went about it. It's easy to say that when you've actually got the equalising goal. Maybe I wouldn't think that if we hadn't got it. That is the way football works. But we created the goal for Casemiro, which was a hair's breadth from being onside. Xerxes was a whisker away with his header, and Xerxes scored the goal. Although the Xerxes goal isn't even a chance, it's just a fantastic finish, great ingenuity from him. But we've created 3, if you like, expected goals when they were parking the bus and sitting on what they had. We weren't taking stupid 30-yard punts, and being greedy and speculative. We weren't just punting it into the box. There was a little bit of consideration there. He did go for it. He went 3 at the back, not 5 at the back, 3 at the back, and went for it, which is a very United-like trait. And the proof's in the pudding. In the end, we got there, didn't we? We got a point. So I am happy with that, and I think there's differences to the way that we did it to how we were doing it under Amorim, which is more in keeping with what I see a United team to be about. Another big difference is earlier in the season, whether we were playing a low block, mid block, or a team that played with a high line, whoever we were playing against, they were creating chances against us, and we looked too soft and too easy to score against and to get behind. That was with 5 at the back. With 4 at the back under Carrick, we look a lot more solid. And the other night, up until the goal that they scored, which was a mistake from Shaw, compounded by a mistake then by Martinez, up to that point we defended impeccably. And that is going to make a big difference to us moving forward this season. So what you'll get is a few more games that are probably quite boring because we're defending well, the opposition's defending well when we're playing against a team with a low block. But at least we're not giving up silly. Well, we gave up a silly goal the other night, but we're not. The volume of goals going in, and it's not just the volume of goals. The volume of chances we're conceding is not high. It's a lot fewer than it was when Amorim was in charge. So that means that when we play teams that are going to come and have a go at us, if we can keep those levels high, just to revisit the levels, discipline on and off the ball, not cutting corners, desire to get out there first and engage, making sure that every passage of play and every duel is like your life depends on it. If you keep those levels high, plus the tactical setup of the team, then when we come up against teams that can come and play against us, we're going to be more solid than we were under Amorim, and we're going to be hopefully really good at the counter-attack. So Carrick's challenge and the whole team's challenge is to keep those levels high. If we can do that, we're going to get more points than we would have done under Amorim, because when we were playing against teams that were having a go at us, they were scoring too freely, and we were scoring, but they were scoring as well. When we were playing teams that played in a low block, we were struggling to break them down, and they were still scoring against us. And I think that's changed. So that's positive. That's definitely positive. There's something else I was going to add to that. It may come back to me. This is football, I guess, in the modern day football fan. But I've seen a bit of feedback over this last couple of days. Goldbridge on the United stand saying, the light switch went off. They looked like they couldn't be arsed. It was a really pitiful performance. Nothing's really changed. I don't know what game you watched. Maybe I'm in a drunken haze of Michael Carrick at the moment, but I didn't see the team switch the light off. Who's he talking about? I gave Luke Shaw a 6, and in hindsight, maybe it was more like a 5 that I should have given him. Luke Shaw had a bit of a stinker. Other than that, they were off the pace. They were below par, but there's a team trying their best who struggled against the low block. The one thing I'd say is that we do still struggle against the low block. Look at the volume of chances that we created in the other games before the West Ham game. We didn't create those volume of chances. And as Language of Football said, teams employ a low block because it's difficult to play against, absolutely. But we are shit at breaking it down, and we have been for a long, long time, and we still are now. And we did struggle the other night, and there was definitely a difference in that regard. Sorry, the lighting's gone really bad in it. Can't get that right. Sorry. So that remains a problem, but I certainly didn't see a team that couldn't be arsed or switched the light off or whatever. Not at all. And you can see people going, they definitely can't give Carrick the job now. Well, because we've drawn a game. Come on. We just need to calm down a bit. We've drawn a game. It's a good challenge, because the next one, Everton away, it's not going to be easy. They're going to keep it really tight and try and counter-attack us. David Moyes has made a career out of it, and Everton is certainly a better team than West Ham, so that won't be easy. Then I think we might have Palace at home. That's a notoriously difficult fixture for us. And again, they'll be happy to give us the ball, and we'll try and break them down, and they'll try and counter on us. And then I think it's Newcastle, who probably will come out and have a go at us, and that'll be a different type of test. So there's a question being asked now: can Carrick inspire the team to keep those levels really high? Can we find answers to those questions? But short term, we're all good at the moment. There's nothing to be getting too excited about in a negative way. I think it's all good. A couple of other bits and pieces. Tuchel's set to sign a new contract with England, which puts him out of the running. Of him, Ancelotti and Enrique, the three big guns, if you like, that we're being linked to. I don't think we get any of them. I think he was the most likely, so he's out of the picture now. I think it gives even more credence to the argument that if Carrick can steer us into Europe, he's going to get the job. We ain't getting Ancelotti, we're not going to get Enrique, and if as long as he steers it nice and calmly as he is doing at the moment, and we continue to sort of stay in those European positions, particularly the Champions League positions, then it's his to lose, I think. Just finally, I saw this yesterday that Jim Ratcliffe has said something about immigration, but the reason it's relevant is he said something about United as well. He sort of said something about the government and United being similar, that he's had to make tough decisions and the government has to make tough decisions. So he kind of linked the two things together. He'd mentioned immigration. It's gone down like a lead balloon. I must say, whenever I'm at a family gathering or whatever, if people start talking about politics, my eyes glaze over. I'm not interested at all. The reason this provokes my interest slightly is that it's not gone down very well and it's caused a bit of controversy, and if it puts bad light on him, all the better, because I don't want him or the Glazers in charge of United. But I'm just going to read a quote from Andy Burnham, and it's relevant because Andy Burnham is in cahoots with Jim Ratcliffe around the regeneration project and the new stadium. So he's criticised Ratcliffe for saying it in the first place, but this is the bit I'm particularly interested in. So Andy Burnham said, "If any criticism is needed, it should be directed towards those who have offered little contribution to our life here and have instead spent years siphoning wealth out of one of our proudest institutions." Ooh. That's got to be about the Glazers, hasn't it? It can't be about anything else. So as I said, that they're supposed to be in cahoots with each other about the regeneration project and Old Trafford being knocked down and redeveloped and whatever. And he said that. Could this be the start of an unravelling? I really hope so. It was always going to take something outside of football, one of them shooting themselves in the foot or being, I don't know, exposed as being some kind of wrong-un to get rid of him. But maybe that could lead to something, although I highly doubt it. But I just thought it was worthy of note. Just to bring it back to the channel, and a little bit of a personal note at the end, really, here, and to give you something of myself and my background. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a football player, but if I couldn't make it as a football player, I wanted to be a sports journalist and or a football commentator. So much so that when I was little and I played footy in my garden, I would create and keep records of these of like leagues that I was playing out in the garden, imaginary leagues, and I'd get objects and put them in the garden. Sometimes I'd use them as opponents to dribble round or curl the ball round. Sometimes I'd use it as something to do a 1-2 off. I used to have a proper football net that was the best birthday present I ever got, and I'd put obstacles in the goal, which hones your skills but makes it more realistic, so you're not just hitting it into an empty net all the time. I don't have siblings that are my age, and I didn't live on a road full of kids, so I made my own entertainment. But when I was doing that, I used to commentate. I got some proper funny looks from people walking past our front garden. So I'm there going, Cantona gets it out wide, he puts it over to Ryan Giggs puts the ball over, and Mark Hughes scores a spectacular volley. And I'm trying to be all of these characters. There's no wonder I was fit when I was younger. And then I'd run away celebrating as if I was at Old Trafford, and in my imagination, my garden was Old Trafford. There's a bit of that little boy that still exists. And this isn't sports journalism, it's not commentary, but it satisfies that need. It scratches that itch for me. Thinking about it from a grown-up perspective, a lot of my mates that I grew up supporting United with, they don't live nearby. So I'm not the type that goes to the pub every Friday and Saturday night or whatever and has a few pints talking about United, because the lads that I know that live around here either don't support United or they're not as into it as I am. So my dad, back in the day, would have gone to the pub on a Friday night and a Sunday afternoon and have a few jars and talk about United over 2 or 3 hours. I'd love to do that. The opportunity isn't there. So you'll probably notice at the weekend in particular, there's times when I come and do a ChatUTD and I've got a beer with me. If I'm talking about United, I'm having a beer. It's my equivalent of going to the pub and having a chat. The difference being, it's me talking to a screen, and I know people are watching it, and then people write comments, which is great, and engage. But thinking about what I said at the start, that if we can do that and have live chat, and even better, have someone on with me, that's the vibe. It's going for a pint talking about United. It's that type of vibe. And I'd love for that to be the case. And just finally, like a bit of a moment of gratitude, really, to thank people. When I started this channel, it was by no means to any fanfare or extensive aggressive marketing. I'd been thinking about it for about 2 months. There was a day where my missus had taken the kids out, and I thought, I'm just going to do it. And I just did it. And I told hardly anyone about it because I wanted to keep it separate to my professional life. So if anything, I kept it on the lowdown. I was very, very strategic about who I told. So it's organically evolved and grown to 53 subscribers, which I know isn't a lot. But as you can see, there's no shine to this. It's very raw. There's no production. There's no graphics. I have no technical knowledge. It's just me talking about United. So I'm supremely grateful that people take the time out of their day to watch a video that I've uploaded. I'm very grateful when people subscribe. I'm very grateful when people write a comment. And when people take the time out of their day to write an extensive comment, even more so. And that's the start of it becoming a more interactive channel. And the live thing will help that massively. So if you subscribe and if you comment, please continue to comment. Ideas for videos, give me ideas for videos, things you want me to talk about. And as I say, soon we'll be able to go live and make it even more interactive. But thank you. Honestly, it's quite humbling. I'm just little old me. There's people like Goldbridge, United People's TV, Steve House and Stretford Paddock, which is linked together. For them, that's their job. That's their job. That's their job to do this, which would be absolutely incredible. I don't know if that'll ever happen. So there's just a person juggling a few different bits and pieces who just loves United and wants to talk about them. 53 subscribers, people writing comments. Absolutely mint. God bless you. Thank you so much. Up the Reds. Glazers out.